Colorado is a river.
Geronimo is an Indian.
There is no beach like a Long Beach.
Welcome to episode 33 of the Columbo podcast, where eagles fly lowest into the setting sun.
And the wild haggis screeches loudest at twilight.
And no, we'll just stop this spy nonsense now.
Well, I think we've confirmed our identities.
We have. I'm wearing the suit with the flower under the clock tower.
That's it, and you did the special handshake when I arrived.
Oh yeah. Good evening, Ian.
Good evening.
Warm one tonight.
It's sweltering
It's a
here.
bit clammy, isn't it?
We're suffering in the Scottish heatwave.
If only we could open the window.
I know, but we can't because of the noises outside.
It's hard enough as it is. What have you been up to?
I've been enjoying the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Nipping outside to the beach that we have.
Buying some ice cream.
Buying some ice cream. Putting ice cubes down people's shirts.
American cream soda.
No,
Fountains
no,
and floaters.
No, that's too much.
Far too much.
Putting ice cream in my iron brew though, that's always good.
I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
Not done it for years.
No, that's a good one.
Tasty. Enjoy this week's episode.
More than last week's, but
Mm-hmm.
not a hugely significant
Okay.
degree of difference.
A little eagle tells me that you're not so keen in Patrick McGoohan.
Well, to be fair, I watched him in a movie once and he condoned the slaughter of many Scottish people.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's historically accurate as well. for there's some liberties taken, but by and large.
Okay. Yeah, this episode, it's got a different feel to it. And I think that McGoohan himself is responsible for that. This was his first directing role.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think Peter Falk's performance is a little bit different. I think it's a bit more whimsical, maybe a bit more casual to some degree. I noticed that his dynamic with Kramer, Bruce Kirby, he's a little bit more laid back and perhaps a little bit cheekier with
Not
him.
even laid back. I think they've taken things that he did as quirks and they've exaggerated them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole not caring about the evidence we saw at the start of Deathlands at hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't really paying attention to what's going on. Same with a candidate for crime.
Yeah.
He wasn't really paying attention to what was going on when he arrived at the crime scene. But that was because in those cases he was looking at the evidence himself.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one it's just, he doesn't care.
Sure. Yep. I mean, like I say, it was directed by McGoohan, and this is, I've got a feeling, a portent of the not too great, dreadful last salute to the Commodore.
We're not far away from that one. 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix tells me these things.
Okay, we'll catch up with that in the future.
It was a warning that came up.
It was. Okay, we're quite warm here, Ian. We've had a busy day to this point, so I suggest that we crack on and you give us this week's summary.
After the death of an unidentified man on a Californian beach, Columbo is called to investigate. An abundance of evidence leads him to Nelson Brenner, a high-level consultant with high-level connections and a shaky alibi. With the pieces falling into place, it seems the lieutenant might get his man, but the CIA are running interference, and Columbo is treading on dangerous ground. An old photograph and an announcement by the Chinese government seem to crack the case, but can Columbo crack the suspect?
Thanks for that, Ian. We start in a hotel room, and we see a man who follows a bellboy into the bedroom, and we're accompanied by some quite intriguing music, appropriate music.
Certainly seems to be some kind of drama building through the score here.
Mm-hmm. He puts a do not disturb sign on the door. He has a cursory look around before removing a jacket, and we see him remove a gun holster, which is important.
Well, one of the things that the bellboy shows him is that there's a wet bar in the room. I have no idea what that is. Is that just a fridge with drinks?
Yeah, I think I didn't pick up on that, did he? What did he say?
There's a wet bar.
Yeah, a wet bar would be an alcoholic bar.
Right. As opposed to a dry bar, non-alcoholic.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
We then go to an office, and we come to learn it's the office of a Nelson Brenner.
It is.
And he picks up the phone, and he calls...
Well, he finishes a call first with someone he calls John.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who that is at this stage.
Yep.
And then he calls
Geronimo.
Well, they used we heard at the start the little exchange of code words, and they make an arrangement to meet in 2 hours.
Yes.
There's an interesting little nod to one of McGoohan's previous roles in this scene.
Several in this scene and in several occasions through this episode.
Yes, which is fan service, I guess, in one of its earlier forms.
And what is it?
Be seeing you.
Yes. Now he says that to his secretary.
He does. But of course that's from
The Prisoner.
The previous role that he was famed for.
His most famous role.
Yeah, I've watched a YouTube video that you sent me of him in The Prisoner, and interestingly he wears an outfit quite similar to what he has on when we see him next.
The polo neck.
And the black, almost blazer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he leaves this office. After making the call, he leaves the office, and he's reminded by his secretary that he has to record a speech, dictate a speech. He tells her that he will come in after dinner that evening and record it in time for her to transcribe when she arrives at the office the next morning at 9 a.m.
That's right.
From his office we go to an amusement park.
Yes.
So, just to be clear, we've got a chap called A.J. Henderson, who's a.k.a. Geronimo.
Played by Leslie Nielsen.
And this Nelson Brenner is played by Patrick McGoohan, who also directs.
Yes.
We don't need to talk too much about both
Either
those
of them,
actors
yeah.
because we have in previous episodes.
Well, Nielsen was obviously in Lady in Waiting in season 1, and we've seen McGoohan fairly recently.
Yep, by Dawn's Early Light.
Yeah.
So both of these characters meet in this amusement park. They've not spoken to each other in 3 years, I think they say.
Yeah.
Brenner admits that he thought Henderson was dead.
And Henderson indicates that was on purpose.
Yeah. So we immediately understand they are agents of some sort of covert organisation.
Yeah. See, they do a decent job here of this setup, but I don't think it carries through the whole episode.
In what way?
They've got this whole network, the exchange of information, the fact that these spies exist and they're part of something bigger, but then it really just boils down to this one guy and his decisions and his actions.
Okay. What we find out is that apparently Henderson is due money from some sort of scheme some dubious scheme that they were both involved in some other country, South American country or wherever.
Probably a fictional country.
No doubt. And he doesn't accept that Brenner is broke. He says that double agents don't go broke. An accusation that Brenner denies.
Well, it's quite a strong accusation, I would say.
And during this conversation, we are privy to the motive in the episode. We've got a clip which sums it up.
By the way, how is A.J. Henderson?
A.J. Henderson commutes every day from Westport, except when he has to go to a regional office for a visit. Very ordered life. Makes him worth much more that way. You thought I was dead, didn't you?
Oh, yes, until I heard of the feats of Geronimo, and I knew it had to be you.
Why didn't you contact me?
I have.
3 years, amigo.
One can't be too careful. Now, let me tell you about this little operation that I'm involved in here.
You'll tell me about the operation in a minute. First things first, Nelson. Now, as I remember, we had a certain currency scheme going on down there in Banana Land. 300,000 preseros, as I recall.
Supposing I told you that I was broke.
Double agents don't go broke. They die sometimes, but they don't go broke.
Oh, come along now. That theory about my being a double agent, so you know there's no fact in it?
Agency doesn't deal in facts. Only rumors, and I have a lot more than rumors, Nelson.
Deal. Come on, relax. The funds have been safely invested in AAA bonds. You'll get your money back, plus interest.
When?
Of course, I could write you a personal check, and then we'd both be tossed into the Potomac.
I said when. I want cash. And I'll worry about the laundering. I was afraid about that.
You'll get the cash, yes?
Sir.
And what we heard at the end of that clip there is the voice of a park employee, a female, whose job it is to take photographs of the customers.
It's still something you see in amusement parks.
Yes.
A little memento of their day.
After the conversation, they both go to the rifle stand, the rifle range, and they both prove to be crack shots.
Well, it's interesting because you always suspect that these things are rigged.
Yeah. They both win the star prize, which is a giant stuffed panda, but only Brenner accepts this gift.
Yeah. The Henderson, if we're going to call him Henderson, which isn't really his name.
No.
He refuses the prize.
We then find out Brenner has an assignment for Henderson. He has to meet with an old and crafty peddler called Steinmetz, who is selling a microfilm. It's a good old-fashioned spy standard, isn't it?
Yeah. Vital data. I used to have emailed it.
Henderson appears to accept this job. And in both...
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it, though? He's obviously suspicious of this guy. He thinks he's a double agent. He's owed money by him, but he's willing to just move on and take this job. Mm-hmm. I don't know why he would do that, unless there's some kind of hierarchy and he's not got any option. But I would have thought he would have had... I mean, he's not spoken to this guy for 3 years.
Yeah. I think the way they both discuss things is that he's in it for the cash.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care if he's a double agent. He suspects that, but he's always suspected that he just wants the money, or he just wants to make some money.
So is this a side project? It's not a CIA official sanctioned job?
But we see later on when there's a discussion under the boardwalk where they're quite happy to negotiate terms and take their own cut and do a little bit of side dealing.
So they're both dodgy agents.
Yeah, both rogue agents.
We've established this now. Yeah. They're both enemies to America.
Both men look very dodgy, and it's not the last time in this episode where a grown man approaches a young girl and inappropriately has a conversation. But what they do is they approach this young girl and they give her the stuffed panda.
Yeah, but not before some very awkward small talk.
Yeah, it's... We'll get back to that in due course. I always thought watching this, you meet in a public place, which is fine to discuss highly illegal, dodgy CIA-style arrangements, and you decide to win a panda and then walk about and then communicate with other people in this park. You know, you'd think that you would want to minimise your interactions, you know, in case anyone is watching or anyone does in fact remember you. Walking about with a massive stuffed panda and talking to a young girl, why would you do that?
It draws attention, certainly, but it could be that that's a double bluff.
Okay.
He's going to make this rendezvous and he's given a token so he can know he's meeting the right person.
It's half of a poker chip.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you would break a poker chip in quite the way it's been done with the jagged edges. It seems like it's almost made that way.
Maybe 2 sets of pliers and you snap it.
Yeah, it's just the way that it breaks, it seems like an unnatural break.
Yeah. It's not that you could have thought of
it. Looks like a prop. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. So yeah, he's given us this casino chip in order to identify himself.
That might be an imagination failure on my part.
No, I think you're quite right. And Brenner suggests that he does not bring any ID or his gun with him.
He's not happy with that.
No. And then he leaves and he tells Henderson that he will take care of the pictures that have been taken within the park.
Yeah.
So we go to this nightclub where this rendezvous...
Well, it says in the window, adult bar.
And it's Sinbad's club.
Yeah.
It looks to be a sort of an Arabian-themed bar.
I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to achieve with the theming, but yeah, there's a belly dancer and there's music.
And we've got Val Avery playing the barman.
There you go, familiar face.
Mm-hmm. We last saw him when?
Oh, I can't even remember.
He was Artie Jessup. Maybe not the last time.
Was that the last time we saw him?
Not sure if it was the last time.
That was right at the end of the previous season.
Yeah, can't remember. But that's why I always, to me, Val Avery's Artie Jessup.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, Henderson orders vodka on the rocks and then he goes to the cigarette machine and pretends it's not working to get his change back.
They've already mentioned this. They talk about the click style. That's a signal they've got. There's taps and
to the other guy
to signify that he's the contact.
Yeah.
And we see a man sitting at the end of the bar who recognises the signal and follows him out and under the pier.
Mm-hmm. And their poker pieces match.
Mm-hmm. The man is we come to know as a Lawrence Melville. Now, he apparently is the go-between for the aforementioned Steinmetz, and he asks for this poker chip as proof, and then they negotiate a price for the microfilm. That's what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, payable in gold.
Yes.
He says the old man wants gold. Mm-hmm. And as soon as he says that, I immediately thought he's talking about Brenner, not Steinmetz, or they're the same.
Why?
I don't know, it's just the way he said old man. I don't know, it kind of made something click.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It doesn't seem logical. My notes I've written, old man wants payment in gold, brackets, Brenner, question mark.
Yeah, well that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, so you weren't fooled at all when...
Well, I wasn't this is what I suspected. It wasn't confirmed. And when you first see Steinmetz, I wasn't certain that it was Brenner, although it became clearer later.
In any case, Henderson and Melville agree to meet the next day at 6 p.m.
Henderson's non-committal in the deal. He won't commit to the arrangement, and he arranges to meet the next day.
Yep.
But on his way off the beach, he bumps into Brenner.
Yes, well, Brenner appears from the shadows.
Oh, he's lurking.
He's lurking there. And effectively, he violently kills Henderson with a tire iron.
We've seen the tire iron used just last week for a murder.
Yes. Well, it was meant to be a tire iron. I'm not sure if it was.
Well, he hit him with something hard and metal over the back of the head.
Crowbar.
Who knows?
And the second strike that he hits him with is overlaid with audio of the police call, and then we cut to Columbo walking in silhouette towards the camera, the crime scene. I quite like
so
that
it's an
transition.
interesting directorial. I'm wondering if we're picking up a theme here, because you see this quite often in Columbo. In the opening act, you get this something interesting directorially, but you don't really seem to see it continue.
Sure.
You don't see a lot of them in the second half of the show, because it then gets into the formula, of Columbo investigating and proceeding. So it's almost as if this is your chance as a director, this is your moment, do something here, and then we're going back to the standard style.
Yeah, I think that you've got a fair point there. So the pier is now the crime scene, and Columbo is introduced to Mugger's Haven, or Mugger's Heaven.
I'm not sure, I think Haven,
yeah, by some of the other crime scene cops and photographers.
yeah.
Columbo immediately dismisses the others with the exception of the medical examiner.
Cliff Anderson.
Anderson, yeah. Who tells him it looks like a standard mugging.
These guys have always got their crimes solved by the medical team.
Yep. Columbo notices that the first blow was to the face. That came first.
Well, the medical guy can't say which one comes first, but Columbo determines that it was the blow to the face that was first.
Columbo then sees on the ground the half of the...
He finds both halves, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think by this he concludes that it's a spy meeting a rendezvous, which is a bit ridiculous.
It's bizarre.
In addition to the poker chip, there are a couple of other clues or things that Columbo notices.
Yeah.
One of them is that his jacket had been removed.
Yes, it was lying next to him.
And Columbo can't understand why, if you were just trying to get a wallet, that you would need to remove a jacket.
Doesn't make sense. It's not a standard mugging event.
No. And he also is told that the man had a book of matches on his person.
Yes, and he wants to know where they're from.
And he finds out it's from Sinbad's, the club.
So he heads that way.
Yeah. Columbo is quite taken by a very interesting dancer.
Well, it's the same dancer that was performing earlier when Henderson was in the bar.
Yeah. Columbo is infatuated. Can't take his eyes off her.
I think more intrigued than infatuated.
Do you think?
Because he comments at the end about her confidence.
Yeah, I think that's a euphemism.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder if he was... we talked about this scene at the top of the show. I'm not sure what the director's trying to get Columbo to do in this scene. He acts like he has completely lost interest in the investigation because there's a pretty girl dancing in the bar.
Yeah.
Which doesn't fit with his character at all.
At one point I thought he was going to tell Kramer to just head off himself and he'll hang about for a while.
Yeah. When Kramer was leaving, yeah. But it doesn't make sense. I don't understand why he would be doing that.
No. I'm not going to be rude, but each to their own. She wasn't the most attractive female in this episode, never mind.
Well, that's subjective.
Of course it is. Certainly is. She certainly was a very confident lady.
Well, Columbo thinks otherwise.
Who?
Columbo said she wasn't confident.
No, she was.
No, he says she wasn't confident. We're going to have to get phone to look into this.
I think she said she was. Did you see her eyes?
Uh-huh.
That's what he said.
He was saying that you could see in her eyes that she wasn't confident.
Oh, maybe.
I'm 65% sure.
Oh, well, that's enough for me. So, we find out, okay, so this scene, Kramer tells Columbo that the barman, Al Avery, is an ex-cop, and that he recognised the pictures of Henderson, who was in the bar that evening earlier on, but he doesn't know who he was.
Every reference to this bartender as an ex-cop seems to annoy Columbo.
Yes.
He acts like it's an irritant. I don't know why he does that either.
No. So the barman says that when Henderson left, there was a young black guy who followed him out. He'd been in the bar as well. And Actually, now I'm thinking, just to go back there, Ian, I'm thinking about it now. I think actually what Columbo says was he looked in her eyes and she was shy.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was putting on the confidence.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I'm gonna up it from 65 to 75% sure now.
Yeah. The next morning, we see Brenner in his car driving to work.
Listening to the radio.
Yep. And what we get from this radio report or news report is that apparently China is going to be pulling out of the Olympic Games.
We're guessing fictional Olympic Games, but it would make sense. It was 1976 Olympics, which is the following year from this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know when the episode's meant to be set. Maybe it's a fictional universe where they have 1975 Olympics. But
Brenner arrives in his office and he is very early and the office block is empty, but I noted this is quite chancy. I mean, he's not that early, it's maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, but in a large office complex,
yeah,
there may have been lots of people in doing, catching up in work. Could be cleaners in.
it could have been. That's when I get to work.
Yeah? No, it's not.
7:30. But
Not this morning it was.
Not this morning, no.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite chancy, that he just knew that he would not be spotted.
True.
He goes into his office and he sets the clock to just before 11.
Yeah, so it can chime in the background when he dictates the speech and place the recording at the previous evening.
It's an attempt to provide an alibi.
Yeah.
Similar to...
Oh, it reminds me of Crucial Game.
Yes.
Where the clock chime proves he wasn't in the right
Yes.
place. But then we've talked about how, or even we see here, the clock chimes can be faked, so it kind of undermines that case, doesn't it, a wee bit?
Yeah, we have to remember, this guy's meant to be a top spy. It's a very elementary, childlike, alibi he's trying to provide here.
Yeah.
Easily broken, I would have thought. Nothing.
He might as well have just said, oh, it's 11 o'clock and I'm
Yes,
going
no-
to start this speech.
Yes, note to self. It's exactly the same as that. It's useless as an alibi.
Margaret, it's nearly midnight. I need to go home to my bed.
Before he starts to dictate this recording of his speech, we see him close the Venetian blinds behind him.
He does, so the sun doesn't shine in his face
Yes.
the way he's sitting.
He then makes the recording and leaves the tape on his secretary's desk before he leaves the office again.
He does. It's quite interesting because we're recording this at 4 a.m.
We are.
and we could use this as our alibi.
Well, it's 4:05 now.
It is.
Yep.
We paused the tape there for a second.
We head off to Henderson's hotel. Outside, we see the cab driver confirm to Kramer that he in fact did collect Henderson from the hotel the previous night and dropped him at the pier.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over earlier. There was a bit where Columbo goes, oh, you're doing all right. You're going to identify this guy. You're going to speak to that guy. You're going to...
That's what I was saying.
The way it was presented, we have to keep coming back to this because it's so weird.
Yeah, it's the relationship, his attitude. I think it's Columbo's attitude. He's a bit more... He's overly confident. And in fact, if we think back to the previous scene or so, we're talking about him in a strip club.
Yeah.
Or certainly an exotic dancing club. Previously, we know that Columbo presented by an alluring woman is usually very embarrassed and shy, doesn't know where to look.
That's it.
But he walks into a strip club and
Stares.
stares at the dancers, and it's not... Yeah, it's certainly a change in...
But you would have thought that the actor would have picked up on this and...
Yeah, but I think, as we know, Falk and McGoohan had a lot of respect, mutual respect for each other, and...
Trusted the director.
Yes, and I think McGoohan was able to get Columbo to try new things. Like I said, not always... In this episode, it's not too bad, but in another episode, it doesn't work, in my opinion. But you can certainly notice the change in performance, and it's nice enough, but I don't prefer it.
No, it seems out of character, which is jarring.
Mm-hmm. Now, while we're at the hotel, normally my trivia is about the actors that we have on, the guest stars.
Yeah.
On this occasion, I have some trivia about the hotel.
Which hotel was it?
It was the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's quite a famous LA establishment. I think it's now called the Millennium Biltmore, but back then it was the Biltmore of Los Angeles Biltmore.
Okay.
It has had 8 Oscar ceremonies held there, including the 50th anniversary in 1977, hosted by Bob Hope.
Okay.
The Oscar statue itself was designed on a napkin in the Biltmore Hotel.
That's a good piece of trivia.
JFK's nomination acceptance speech was given there, and in fact the campaign headquarters were set up in the lobby or the music room at the time of that hotel.
That's an interesting piece of information.
With his running mate Lyndon Johnson was also based in there. The Beatles stayed there during their first US tour. The Olympic Committee for the LA Games of 1984 were based there.
Mm-hmm.
We have had a number of movies and TV shows over the years filmed on location there, including Chinatown, Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop, In the Line of Fire, Ocean's 11, The West Wing, Glee, Charlie's Angels, and Entourage, to name a
That's
few.
quite remarkable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So, very well known and famous hotel. From the Biltmore, we go to the apparent employer of A.J. Henderson. This is his cover employer.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah. So, what happens here?
We find out that, well, first of all, it's announced to this man that his employee A.G. Henderson is dead.
Been murdered.
Been murdered, and he's very upset.
You would be.
And he's shown the photo and says, "Oh, that's not A.J. Henderson. Here's A.J. Henderson. Here's a picture of him right here."
Mm-hmm. So they're confused. Kramer and Columbo are both here, and
They're almost at odds here. Columbo's almost chastising Kramer for getting this wrong. Kramer's like, "Well, that's what I was told."
yeah.
And he gives him all the information he got from the hotel.
Yeah. We find out that the real A.J. Henderson, his role involves a lot of travel throughout the world. So it's obviously an ideal persona to take on. And then as you see outside, we have this odd, as they leave, they're sort of arguing or debating with each other. And Kramer tells Columbo that what he does know is that Henderson checked into the hotel at 4 p.m. and then went to the amusement park, at 10 p.m. Or the pier in that area.
Columbo heads back to the amusement park.
He does.
And he's looking for people who might recognise Henderson or who he thought was Henderson.
He starts to show the death picture of Henderson to normal employees
Random people,
without saying, "By the way, I'm about to show you a picture."
At one point he says, "By the way," but for most of them he doesn't.
He doesn't say "by the way" that often. He should say, "By the way, you're about to see here a picture of a man who's been murdered by being beaten about the face and the head with an iron bar. Don't be too offended by this." But he doesn't. He just says, "Have you seen this person? Oh, put that away. Put that away." You can't just go showing people pictures of dead people.
It seems inappropriate.
It's very inappropriate.
He speaks to the guy at the shooting gallery, who's the first one to recognise him.
Yep. He confirms that both Henderson and Brenner were there yesterday and that he would recognise them again.
Yes.
And then Columbo speaks with Don and Joyce. Now they're the photographers.
This is a great moment. For all that we've criticised the episode, I like this, where Columbo gets his photo taken,
Yeah.
put in a badge, and then he wears the badge.
He walks about, with a Columbo badge. Brilliant.
And why not?
Might get myself one of those badges.
They must be available. eBay will have them.
Yeah.
Someone can put a link up.
He speaks to Joyce on her own.
Yeah, she was the one who took the photo previous
And
night.
he tells her, actually, he says, "Listen, I'm going to show you a picture of a dead man."
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. He tells one person.
Yeah.
She doesn't recognise him.
No. But what happens is Columbo finds out that she takes all these pictures and she has duplicates and negatives and pictures she hasn't sold. So he gets into her
Little tiny hut that's not got room for two people.
No. And eventually they find a picture with both Henderson and Brenner in the background.
But with their faces visible.
Yes. Now, Joyce was played by a Barbara Rhodes.
Okay.
I thought she was quite a impressive figure of a lady.
You're entitled to say that.
Mm-hmm. I would rather she was doing the exotic dancing than...
Well, they chose an interesting camera angle for her
They did.
main scene here.
Yes, they did. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who will comment on that particular... and in fact, I think the picture on Netflix, that's the
freeze frame that they
freeze frame
use.
that you use in Netflix.
It's from that scene, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what we've chosen for our show notes.
Of course not. Joyce was played by Barbara Rhodes. She was born in 1947, known for roles in The Goodbye Girl, The Shakiest Gun in the West, Murder, She Wrote, Magnum, Busting Loose, Ironside, Happy Days, Mission Impossible, and McCloud.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Star Trek.
Yeah, I was hoping so, but nope.
What have they done? They overlooked. Before the scene ends, she indicates that she recognises Brenner because he bought both the print and the negative.
Yes, and he gave her $20 for it.
Yeah, way over budget.
Well, earlier in the scene at the cigarette machine, we find out that 20 cigarettes cost 60 cents.
Yeah.
So this is, nearly 40 packs, or maybe 35 packs of cigarettes worth.
Yeah.
Today...
That's an interesting measure, but yes.
Yeah, well, today, certainly in this country, 20 cigarettes, I believe, cost around £9, which is maybe $15?
I don't know. But we have a lot of tax charged on our cigarettes. I don't know if it's the same over there.
True. Anyhow, from there we go to a conference room in a hotel.
Yes.
And you see, I wasn't clear at first that this speech was not to be performed by Brenner himself.
Oh no, I think that I kind of picked that up.
Did you?
The speech was, cause he says it's for Defonte earlier on.
Yeah, wasn't paying much attention, to be honest.
Oh, okay. It's not like it's your job for this podcast or anything.
I was being distracted by
watching the football on the other channel.
Yeah. Hadn't quite got over Barbara Roads. So we see Vito Scotti. He plays Defonte.
Yes.
He never puts in a bad performance, does he? It's always enjoyable when Vito Scotti makes an appearance in a Columbo episode.
It is.
He's very charismatic. He's great on camera. His delivery is it's charming.
Yes, there's a great moment actually coming up later on when he and Columbo chat in Italian.
Yeah, we'll get to that and the grapes. So anyway, Defonte is making this speech, and we see Brenner, watch from the sidelines.
Yes, and Columbo shows up, and Brenner is determined to fob him off.
Yeah, he denies at first any knowledge of Henderson, and in fact, I think he tells Columbo 2 or 3 times that Columbo's in the wrong room. He shouldn't even be here.
He says, "You have the wrong room." That's all he'll say to him. You have the wrong room. You have the wrong room.
He then denies knowledge of Henderson until Columbo shows him the picture. He then instructs Columbo to take a seat. Columbo doesn't at first. I think he sort of asserts his authority a little bit.
Well, he gets his badge out. He makes it clear that he is the police.
Mm-hmm. Brenner checks his ID and then apologises.
Yeah, he clears up the situation. He explains that he was trying to poach Henderson.
Pirate.
Yes, but poach is what he means.
Yeah, but he uses the word pirate.
He says pirate, but he was trying to poach him from the company he's at to his own company.
He was. And that's why he denied knowing him.
Yes, and he is surprised to learn that it wasn't even really Henderson.
Mm-hmm. Then we have a sort of odd scene, because he sort of laughs when he finds out he's been murdered, because of the irony of him telling... because he told...
the guy he thought was Henderson.
Yes, to come and live in LA.
The crime's not so bad as in New York.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of their exchange. We can listen to it.
Do you have any suspects?
Yes, sir, we do, but we don't know who he is yet. Someone who appeared to follow him out of a nightclub out there at the beach.
How did you contact me so quickly?
Oh, that's a long story, sir. But when I got the photograph, someone at the firm where Mr. Henderson worked identified you. They said you were a very famous consultant. They also said, sir, that the A.J. Henderson that works for their firm is alive and living in Westport, Connecticut, and doing business out of New York.
There you must be mistaken.
No, sir, I'm not.
You mean to suggest that the Henderson that I met with yesterday was not with Winston Advertising?
That's right, sir.
I don't understand. Initially, you see, he called me from New York and evinced an interest in working for my firm. And I said, yes, surely, of course, we'll see about it. Meanwhile, I checked him out, found, in fact, that he was an able accounting executive, and said next time he was over here, we'd meet, and we did, and that was yesterday.
He must have been impersonating him.
Impersonating? Why?
I don't know.
He goes on to say that if he can help, just to let him know.
Yes. That's always the door that Columbo's looking to step through, isn't it?
It's an interesting one. I know that I've criticised McGoohan in his previous episode and in this one. I just think Falk's a much better actor, and you can see it when they talk to each other.
It's an odd performance by McGoohan in this episode. It's quite clipped. It's quite eccentric, but I do like it.
Uh-huh.
You don't like it as much.
I didn't take to it, put it that way. I'm not saying he is horrific. I'm not saying he's as bad as Margaret from Ransom for a Dead
Let's
Man.
not go there.
But I just think Falk is better.
He is. I have to agree, he is better. Falk is a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Underrated it in the extent that people now just associate him with Columbo. And that, I think a lot of people don't appreciate how varied his range is and what he'd done prior to Columbo.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but I think he's a very, very, very accomplished actor.
I think it's clear. That scene showed it, I think, for me.
So from the conference room, we go to Brenner's home. And Brenner arrives to find his boss, the agency boss, the director, waiting for him, having arrived by helicopter in his back garden.
Yes, Brenner looks quite angry here, and there's kind of staccato music going on. It's like, his mood through the music.
And he tells the boss that it was likely that the death was just in fact a mugging.
Yeah, they agree to place Columbo under surveillance because they don't want locals finding out about their operations.
True. And the boss tells him not to go after this... Henderson tells the boss not to go after Steinmetz.
No. Brenner tells the boss. Henderson's dead.
It's all this Geronimo's and
I know.
double... I can't remember who's who in this.
Brenner says to the director...
McGoohan says not...
yeah.
Nielsen was... Yeah.
So, but essentially, because we're about to find out that Brenner is Steinmetz, he's saying, don't come after Steinmetz.
Yes.
But once he's up in the helicopter, the director says something very different to the pilot. They're coming back round.
Yes. He's got to keep an eye on the situation.
Absolutely.
David White played the director. He died in 1990, aged 74. Certainly most famous for 191 episodes of Bewitched, playing Larry Tate.
Okay.
In that. He was also in Perry Mason, Mission Impossible, Kojak, The A-Team, and a movie I mentioned to you the other week there that you've not seen, and I recommend, Brewster's Millions.
Right, okay.
Richard Pryor.
Right, you did mention that to me, but not on tape.
Tape. What year is this? Tape. Do you think we've got reel-to-reel somewhere?
Don't spoil the illusion.
It's like something out of Columbo episodes where where to edit it I cut things and...
That's how it's done. It's the magic of podcasting.
That is. Need to rewind it. Okay. Tape. Yeah, I edit this with a razor blade. Some sticky tape.
That's it.
Okay, so from there we go to LAPD.
Very briefly.
Very briefly. The barman, he picks out Melville from a mugshot book.
Yep. Conveniently.
Yep, he does that for Kramer, and he identifies the guy that followed Henderson out. So from there we go to Melville's house.
Yes, and Columbo shows up.
Yes, but Melville denies anything to do with Henderson, and Columbo just tells him, okay, come down, I want to speak to you in more detail, come down the station
This
the
is
next
another
day.
Columbo interaction that's not really similar to what we've seen from him in the past. This is the kind of thing you wouldn't see it being done, because it either wouldn't be Columbo doing it or it wouldn't be important enough for us to see it as part of the story. You just see the next engagement. But the point of this scene isn't the engagement with Melville. It's the very inconspicuous van.
Radio,
that
van.
around.
So, yes, I mean, that you're right, that is the whole point of this scene. From there we go to Brenner's house.
It's a pool party.
Garden party. Pool party, yeah.
We've seen Columbo at a couple of pool parties.
Yeah. We also often see some nice dancing or inappropriate fashion.
Yeah, we didn't see any nice dancing this time.
No. Columbo arrives behind some guests, and we then see him, he jumps a few times above a hedge in order to see what's going on.
Which he can't possibly see over.
Yeah, but there's no reason to. He's a cop investigating a murder. He doesn't need to jump and sort of, he just walks in.
Yeah, and he does do that. He looks intrigued.
And then we see this van again to emphasise the fact
he's
that
being followed.
He's being tailed.
There's actually a good moment. Columbo goes in and Brenner's there, and he says to Columbo, "We can't understand how he got in." And Columbo says, "The gate was open."
Yes.
That was possibly my favourite moment of the episode.
Yeah, and he also, at that point, he says that, I was just in the neighbourhood, but then immediately tells him how remote the place is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that. Then he starts helping himself to the hors d'oeuvres that are floating around and asks Brenner for his alibi.
Yes. Which he provides. Apparently the the speech recording was what he was doing.
Yes.
And that's the alibi.
Yeah, and he makes it clear that Columbo is not to harass him because he has friends in the police and other high places.
It's an odd reaction, isn't it? For someone who you are apparently an advertising executive, why would you... This character that you're
He's
playing...
leaning on the policeman, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you should not have these connections. Being
Even if you do, why would you bring them up?
Yeah, exactly.
You would get them to lean on him and say, I'm his friend, don't investigate him. Anyway.
After this, he asks about Melville and he denies any knowledge.
Yeah.
Lieutenant, I think that I should warn you that I am not an unworldly man. I have powerful and important friends, even in the police department. I respectfully request that you do not harass me.
Why, sir, I would never do that.
I know, I understand your problem, but you must understand mine. It's a very bizarre situation. Because of a misplaced confidence in a man that I knew as Henderson, I find myself in this ridiculous predicament with you.
Oh, and it's all very understandable, sir. As a matter of fact, I have a lead on that suspect that I mentioned.
Do you?
Do you know Lawrence Melville?
No, I don't. And this time, I'm not lying to you.
Yeah, this time.
Yeah, I like that response. Columbo then goes on to admit that he believes that Henderson must have known the mugger due to the first blow being to the face.
That's right.
I don't accept or understand that at all.
I think that's a thing we've heard before, In fact, even just last week, the blow was to the back, so that showed he knew them. This time the blows to the face, so that shows he knows them.
Yeah, I think last week was far more acceptable and far more reasonable.
Yeah, he's basically using the exact opposite thing to make the exact same point.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up.
One of the biggest tropes that you might get for a mugging is someone coming up to you and saying, "Have you got a light?"
Yeah.
Or approaching you with under some other pretense. So
it doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. He doesn't have to know him at all because he was hit in the face.
There's another good line in this scene. He asks Brenner why a mugger would remove the victim's coat.
And Brenner does the usual trope of providing answers here.
But not to this question.
No.
He says, not being a mugger, I'm afraid I can't help you there.
Yes. Yeah. No, sorry, yes, I meant that Brenner tries to answer why, how he could have been hit in the front of the face.
Yes, and then this great quote comes in right after that. Columbo also takes this opportunity to let Brenner know he's aware he's being followed.
Yes. He says that he's being followed, but it can't be the collection company because his car is paid for, which is quite funny. I enjoyed that. So from there we go back to Melville's house.
Yeah, we're rapidly accelerating now towards the denouement in this episode. We're getting to the climax.
Yeah. We see Melville receive a phone call from the...
Steinmetz, the aforementioned Steinmetz.
Yes, the elusive Steinmetz.
Yes, he's directed to a wee quiet area.
Yes. So we go to this rendezvous, this roadside rendezvous.
I've marked it as quiet area.
Yep.
Steinmetz, brackets, Brenner, question mark,
yep.
According to my notes, arrives.
The elusive Steinmetz appears.
He doesn't look anything like Brenner, though. This is where you first think, well, hang on, maybe it is a different character.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Did the disguise fool you?
Initially, although he looks like his character from Braveheart.
Okay.
When he's dressed like that. But yes,
Okay,
I would say
that's good. He stealthily takes the keys out of Melville's car, and then they both sit in Steinmetz's car with Mel sitting in the front.
Melville, yeah.
Melville then complains about receiving sort of heat from a heavy little dude named Columbo. I like that.
Yeah.
And he then states that he did not kill Henderson, obviously not realising that he's sitting with the killer at that point.
That's it.
Steinmetz then gives him an envelope of money, tells him to keep calm, take the heat, and then asks him or tells him to take his car to a specific location and that he will return Melville's car to his house for him, that evening.
It'll be there when he gets back. Mm-hmm. But as he drives off,
we see Steinmetz press a button and we hear the car explode.
So would that be radio?
Yeah.
So that'd be a limited range, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Just wondering about the technology, because you're not going to have mobile phone technology that you would use nowadays.
It would also be a bit of a giveaway in terms of that type of device. You might have someone having some sort of crude car bomb,
Yeah.
but having a radio-controlled car bomb would, when the sort of crime scene, the explosive team looked at it, it would be a red flag
Yeah.
that there are people with more sophisticated means and methods involved here.
Sure. Once the car blows up and we assume Melville's dead, Steinmetz heads off in Melville's car and then swaps to another vehicle and removes his disguise.
And that was the point where you
It's
realised...
definitely Brenner. I mean, I kind of was pretty certain. I had wavered for a moment, but now I was sure.
And as you rightly say, we assumed that he was dead.
Yeah, it's similar to Short Fuse.
Mm-hmm.
The car blew up, everybody dead.
But no, we go to the hospital.
Melville
And
survived.
he's
And
alive.
we think, has he made a mistake here? Is this a
Yeah.
critical error?
He's all bandaged up, but he's giving a description of Steinmetz to a police artist, and he's spilling the beans about what he's been involved in.
This is the speed at which the artist draws the pictures unbelievable.
Later on, I've made a point of this later on. It's like, oh, come on, really? You cannot be that accurate.
You can't suspend disbelief that much
No.
either.
Melville was played by Otis Young. He died in 2001, aged 69. He had a starring role alongside Jack Nicholson and Randy Quaid in a film called The Last Detail, which was a good movie.
Okay.
In fact, it had 3 Oscar nominations. He was also in The Outcasts, McLeod, and Cannon, to name but a few. In later life, he found religion and became a pastor.
There you go. Moved to Brenner's office.
The secretary, Ruth, she admits to Columbo that she can't state for sure that Brenner came back in that evening.
But
to
the tape was
dictate-
waiting for her when she
Yes,
went.
that's all she can confirm.
Yeah.
And then Brenner arrives, and they go into his private office.
Yes.
He's unhappy.
He's not happy in any way.
No, he wants to know why Columbo is there after a suspect, Melville, was nearly killed by Steinmetz. And he admits again that he has lots of influential friends, hence this knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah, that doesn't play very well for me. It just sounds like he knows because he knows.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But Columbo tells him that he doesn't think that Steinmetz wanted Melville dead. There were not enough explosives used, and apparently it was in the car door and not the engine where it would be most effective.
Yeah.
Columbo then admits that he suspects Brenner of being involved.
I fail to understand you. You have suspects all over the place. You have Melville, you have Steinmetz, and yet you still insist on suspecting me.
Yes, sir, I do feel you're involved. I have to admit that.
Did anyone see me on the pier? The answer is no. Do I know Melville? Again, the answer is negative. I could go on, but I suggest that we leave it where it is.
Your secretary doesn't provide an alibi at all, sir. You simply told her that you were coming back here. Can you prove that you actually did come back?
As you well know, these offices are empty in the evening, and I don't need to prove it. Neither do I require an alibi. If you have an accusation to make, do it.
No accusation.
In that event, good morning.
He also says to him, Lieutenant, you're diving into areas over which you have no authority.
Yes.
It's interesting, because that's not something you would expect to hear.
He's almost, in these exchanges where he admits that he has influential associates, it's almost as if he is hinting at and wants Columbo to understand, because if you're trying to just play up to your character,
Sure.
you don't mention this at all.
No.
So I think he wants Columbo to know. I think he realises that perhaps this is his only way, or his best way, of getting Columbo to
Back off.
back off. Yeah.
After Columbo leaves, he calls the director, or Brenner calls the
Yes,
director to be
saying Colorado, calling the director. We go to a place called Travel Town Park.
It's interesting, yeah.
And we see Columbo being followed by 2 men as he enters this place.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a second. He buys a charred hot dog from from
Someone who knows him, a vendor at a stall.
a guy called Art, yeah. And he has some banter about Art's girth. Now, why does Columbo know this guy?
It might be where he goes for his hot dogs.
Really? I've never seen him there before, and it's travel town. It's not just a park.
Maybe it's on his way to work or something. I think we just take it that he knows this guy. I don't know why we know he knows the guy. But.
Okay, let's get to this bit. He sits down beside a mother and two young girls.
Yeah, even though there's plenty of room.
Yeah, I've got a very short clip here.
Hey, you know you're pretty? Did you know that?
No.
Huh? Sure you are. You know it, huh? Oh, I don't blame you. Is that your sister?
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty, too.
Thank you.
You guys got a dog?
Yeah.
Now, we have a man, a fairly seedy looking man, in a dirty Mac.
Yes.
He approaches two young girls in a park, tells them they look pretty, and basically inquires if they'll want to see some puppies.
But their mother's there.
Yeah.
She's in control.
She doesn't look to be in control.
She couldn't be less interested.
Sign of the times, isn't it? When the director and everyone else went, yeah, that's fine. We're not. It doesn't look bad at all.
It's political correctness gone mad. That in this day and age, a seedy man in a Mac cannot approach an 8-year-old girl in the park and tell her she's pretty.
Whilst eating a hot dog, suggestively eating a hot dog.
I wouldn't say suggestively.
No, okay, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but yeah, you can't approach young children.
I'm not even sure this is funny, to be honest.
It's not funny. It's funny that they decided that it was suitable to be left in.
I don't know if this is a sign of more innocent times
I
or
think so, yeah.
Different moral standards.
If Columbo came anywhere near my kids in a park and give it that patter, he would be
chased for an autograph.
He'd be chased. Oh, yeah, if it was pure fault, then fair enough. I'd say fill your boots. Anyway, let's just
cut this.
No, we won't cut it. I think it's perfectly acceptable to
valid comment.
Very perfectly valid comment. Yeah.
The men who are following Columbo also join them at the table.
Yeah, they sit down, flash their badges to show that they are from the CIA.
He looks a bit perturbed.
At first he does, but then I think he gets a bit fanboyish, doesn't he? He's quite impressed by this. He's intrigued.
Yeah.
He's not worried.
It's interesting that he's very much... He takes the line here, I think, that the CIA are good guys.
Yeah, which...
It's debatable at that time.
Well, I think in fairness, in most portrayals of the CIA in movie and TV, even by Americans, they're not regarded as the good guys.
They are regarded as the good guys.
No, I would disagree. I think perhaps you could argue that they are doing it for causes which serve American ends,
yeah.
But I don't think anyone actually thinks that I think everyone would accept that they do things that are wrong to achieve their ultimate goals, but I don't think anyone thinks they themselves are good guys.
Well, I would hope not.
No. Anyway, maybe they are.
There's probably good guys in the CIA.
We're probably going to get bugged now, aren't we?
Well, we're probably already bugged.
We're on the list.
If they've listened to the previous episodes.
Anyhow, they ask Columbo to go for a walk. One guy has some crazy pyjama-like stripy trousers on.
I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. I thought perhaps he forgot to put his pants on when he left the house.
His American pants.
American pants.
These are his long johns that he's coming out in.
We go inside a train carriage.
Yeah, another little bizarre moment where he meets the director of the CIA in a train driver's sort of carriage area.
He's frisked for bugs, and then he's spoken to by the director, the head.
Yeah, and
head
he
honcho.
reveals that Brenner is working with them, but that Steinmetz is eluding the CIA also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. This is the first time we know for sure that Brenner is working against the CIA. He is a double agent.
Yeah, and he's told by the director that Brenner is an important operative, and Columbo has to back off.
Yeah.
Now this is the second, you picked up last week, this is the second week in a row that Columbo ignores orders from government agencies that are, apparently well out of his league.
Yes. You wonder what the checks and balances within LAPD are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it works. I'm assuming that because it's the CIA, they have some sort of greater authority, but perhaps they don't. In the statute book,
Well, CIA is an international
Of course it
agency, so maybe domestically they don't have the same leeway.
yeah, FBI is sort of domestic, and the CIA is as you say, international. But have they got the right to tell cops what to do? Or is this advice?
I think this is more advice. I don't think he's ordering Columbo to do anything or not do anything. He's just suggesting that he does not investigate Steinmetz.
Columbo then asks about Steinmetz and is told to forget about him. And he also confirms that A.J. Henderson was himself an operative.
Not A.J. Henderson, though. The fake A.J. Henderson.
The fake, obviously. And finally, Columbo asks if being a CIA operative, that he asks if he would carry a gun. The director says he would most certainly.
This is Columbo continuing his investigation, essentially.
Yep. We next head to a gas station.
A little bit of comedy.
Bit of padding. Quite enjoyed it. Not too bad.
Nothing worth writing down in my notes.
He tries to, there's a chap going to fill up his car, and he increases the amount of fuel that can be placed as he rummages in his pocket and adds up.
Extra change,
yeah. Brenner arrives, and he gives him he gives him a $10 note.
Is this a coincidence?
I think Brenner might be following him.
Perhaps. But anyway, Columbo talks with the director.
Brenner says, I know you had that meeting. I knew before you were having that meeting.
And offers to meet him for cocktails, which Columbo refuses.
Well, he refuses at that point in time.
Yeah.
But he takes him up on the offer a little later.
Well, that's the next thing we see. Columbo has come back and wants to pay back that $10, which he didn't really use for the fuel, did he? He didn't spend it.
I'm not sure.
He starts waving it at Brenner as Brenner's driving off in the garage.
Yeah, but Columbo's still having his car filled.
Yeah, I think he's getting it filled with the amount of change he had, though. He's not getting...
Nah, he might turn around and say to the guy, yep, add another $10 onto that.
Yeah. But anyway, eventually he wants to pay back his $10.
That's his reason for being there, apparently.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
He's at Brenner's house, and he's impressed by the surroundings.
Yeah, there's a big painting on the wall called The Discovery of America. It's not the Salvador Dali version.
No.
In fact, it's not one that I could recognise at all. I tried to find that picture, see if it was a real picture, but I didn't see it.
Okay. Columbo also appears to be impressed by the fact that Brenner can speak a number of different languages. I think he speaks in Japanese.
Was it Japanese? I thought it was maybe Filipino or something like that. I wasn't certain.
Not sure myself. I don't speak any of them.
Nor do I.
He accepts some hors d'oeuvres and a glass of red wine.
He does. He doesn't often take alcohol.
No, I don't think he actually takes it in this scene. He accepts it, but
sure.
I'm not sure if he drinks it. Brenner. Sorry, I keep saying Bremer. It's Brenner. Brenner then puts on his music box, and we hear some fantastic 70s style pop music to start with.
We do.
And then some Madame Butterfly. And Columbo says that it's his wife's favourite.
This is Brenner showing Columbo he's been bugged.
Because
it's his wife's favourite song.
Yes, Brenner admits that he knows it's his wife's favourite song.
It's a little bit creepy, this bit.
Yeah. We move through to Brenner's den.
Yeah, and for the second time in 2 appearances, McGoohan is offering Falk a fancy cigar.
Yeah, some Cuban cigars. And Columbo remarks on Brenner's awards, medals and achievements which are all over the wall.
It's interesting, one of the photos on the wall is McGoohan dressed in traditional British aristocratic dress from perhaps the 1500s.
It's him dressed as James Earl of Moray from...
Yeah.
Moray?
Moray. I would pronounce that Murray.
Moray.
Yes.
It's Moray.
I would say Murray. Doesn't matter.
Tomato. He's dressed as James Earl of Moray from 1971's Mary Queen of Scots.
So it was actually McGoohan in a movie?
Yes.
That's almost as good as the meta reference in the Columbo badge.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we have here?
Well, Columbo looks at a photo of Brenner at a plane, and suddenly Brenner looks very serious, and it's not clear what's going on here. And Columbo makes his excuses shortly thereafter to get out.
Yeah.
And on his way out, he's at the car, and he shows Brenner this drawing of Steinmetz that they got in the hospital.
And Brenner appears quite pleased with this revelation of what Steinmetz looks like, and he asks for a copy of it for the director. But Columbo gives him
That copy,
that
yeah.
copy, says he has one for himself anyway.
And Columbo's still dubious in this whole thing, and Brenner says no one in our business is ever who he says he is.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is almost a slight clue again to what's going on
Without
here.
a doubt. Where do
Well, we end with the be seeing you again, so you
Yes.
can kind of slip that one in there.
we go to De Fonte's office this time?
Yes, this is the bit we talked about earlier where Vito Scotti and Peter Falk are talking Italian to one another.
I enjoyed this little scene.
It was good.
Again, a bit of padding, but enjoyable.
Yep, and Columbo gets a copy of the speech
Yep.
and some grapes.
2 large bunches of grapes as he leaves.
They insist.
And we go back to Brenner's office.
This is our final scene.
Yes. He arrives to find Columbo listening to the recording of the speech.
Of the, yes, not of the actual speech, of the dictated
Yes.
notes.
Columbo has a warrant, and he claims that Brenner has told a lot of lies. One being about where he was at the time of the murder.
Yeah.
And then Columbo produces a picture of Brenner that
This
he
is
got
hilarious.
from his house.
It's brilliant. There's 2 copies.
Yes, and it was 15 years ago.
And it shows Brenner's balding.
He's going bald, and Brenner then confirms that he now wears a wig.
Yes.
A piece.
And they shows another copy of the picture where they've basically just drawn a picture of Steinmetz over the top of it.
Yeah. We discussed this earlier. It's heavy. They could have come up with something better than this, couldn't they? It's quite incredulous.
Yeah, it's not proof of anything.
No, as you say, he just goes, oh, no, this now looks like you. It's like when you...
Can you tell what it is yet?
It's when you... Oh, it's when you're... No, I can't, Rolf. It's like when you're bored back in the day when you actually used to buy or read newspapers and you would draw a Hitler moustache on someone. It doesn't... it's...
Or a goatee.
A goatee, yeah. Or other things that you might draw on a...
Big ears and things like that.
Yeah, and things like that. So, yeah, it doesn't prove anything. But, anyway... what happens?
Well, Columbo plays the tape and he shows the sound of the blinds closing proves it must have been the morning. Just after 7, because the sun would be shining at precisely 17 degrees.
Brenner rightly dismisses this as nonsense and says, no,
Yeah.
I was closing them for privacy.
Yeah.
And Columbo then says, but it was very early in the morning. No one would have been in the office. Or
And he rightly says, I was in my office, so other folk could have been.
Yes, precisely.
It was late at night, it wasn't early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But Columbo has a second damning piece of evidence.
It's not damning at all. What is it?
He says the speech includes a reference to the Chinese withdrawal from the Olympics, which didn't happen until the next morning.
Yes. And he plays this, and as soon as he plays this, we've seen this before. Now, you're talking about a CIA operative.
Yep.
They, as far as I'm aware, have been trained in counter-interrogation techniques.
Sure.
They should be getting trained to a level where if they're captured by hostile enemies and they're tortured, they're having the threat of their fingernails being pulled
Extracted,
out,
yeah.
etc., they've got ways of dealing with this.
Sure.
Columbo makes this one point about the Chinese pulling out the Olympics, and he immediately collapses like a old pack of cards
Confesses.
and confesses.
Well, to be fair, they were reaching the end of the episode.
Yeah. This is balderdash. All this proves is that he lied about when he made this speech. This does not stand up in court. That's all that's... Okay, I'm playing the... Let's find the proof clip. This is getting played again. This warrants the proof clip.
Will you give me proof, Lieutenant? Where is your proof, Lieutenant?
Well, the note I've taken is it's a soft gotcha.
No, it's not a soft gotcha. It's not a gotcha at all. What does it prove?
Well, let's listen to it.
What made you stay on it? Was it the coat?
Yes, sir, I couldn't figure out why it was removed. You see, the high note and a mugger can take a guy's money without taking off his coat. And then it occurred to me that Mr. Henderson was a secret agent. And that secret agents wear guns.
Shoulder holsters.
And that Mr. Henderson
Had what?
was a secret agent.
He was.
And you couldn't afford to have that fact known. So, in order to remove the shoulder holster,
Had to
remove the coat. Why didn't you put it back on again?
Oh, I was going to. But apart from muggers on the beach, Mr. Columbo, they also have loving couples. And I was interrupted at the scene of the crime.
That's a little bit amateur.
Yeah. I'm not happy with it. Not happy. There's nothing, no proof whatsoever of anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, I take it the motive overall is to keep the money that they stole together,
Yeah.
which the other guy had no way of getting from him.
Perhaps, okay, yeah, well, whilst we're here, let's do the episode review then, while we're talking about this. So, yeah, the motive, as you said, it's to stop having to provide the money to A.J. Henderson, or Geronimo, that he's due. He may not want to give him it, or he may in fact not have it anymore.
Or he may worry about being chased by this guy and murdered for it.
Yeah, or exposed potentially as a double agent.
Yeah.
So the motive is fair enough.
Sure.
The clues, as usual, I'll run through them, tell me if I've missed any. So we've got the blow to the face, we've got the poker chip, we've got the fact that Henderson is not Henderson, we've got the picture at the park showing the two of them together, we've got the coat being off, we've got the fact that he was being tailed, we've got Melville's description of Steinmetz, we've got the fact that he was told that operators always carry guns, which relates to the jacket, we've got the reworked sketch, and they've got the Chinese pulling out as a sort of gotcha.
Yeah, very impressive list.
Yeah, they're okay, I suppose. Yeah, I never really understood how he got to the conclusion that someone was telling lies about who they were. He must be a spy. That and a poker chip. Obviously, spies doing their business.
Yeah, he had the gun holster clue, I suppose.
Yeah, that doesn't. You would not think automatically they must be CIA operatives.
Yeah, I think on the whole there were elements of a good story here.
Yeah,
and I think that the episode's fine. I mean, it's watchable.
It's enjoyable,
but too many of the threads, when you tug at them, they come away. There's not the depth or the interwoven sort of tapestry of a really strong top class episode here.
I think you're right there. It's not strong enough. It's not. It's too flaky.
Yeah, and Columbo's not really himself, which
It's not,
makes it a little bit off-putting.
Precisely, it's not a satisfying enough episode. There's too many little weaknesses at important. You can get weaknesses in different areas which aren't as important. But I think, as you said, the sort of backbone, the spine of the episode wasn't as strong as what it could be.
And they've got all these little nods to the prisoner and stuff like that. Well, spend a bit more time thinking about the story you're telling.
Yeah.
That sounds really sort of curmudgeon-y. I'm sorry.
No, I accept that that's fine. Having those nods and winks and references are all fine when you've got a top-notch episode. But having all these, these little other things when time could have been better spent improving what you have, sort of grates a little. Well, see, I still enjoyed it, but for me, it's not a great episode. There's too many weaknesses.
Who wrote the episode?
Okay, the episode was written by William Driscoll. This was his final Columbo credit. He also did Troubled Waters.
Dare we say?
Yeah. But he did Troubled Waters and Forgotten Lady.
They were okay.
Two good episodes, yeah. I think, to be
blame
honest...
the director in this one. We're going to blame the director.
I think we might have to. Aye. And we
So
know...
he's not sacrosanct.
Now, we do know that he in the past argued about rewriting.
Yes, he wanted credit for Dawn's Early Light.
Yes, so perhaps he got his mitts on this, and because he was
Reworked
director, reworked it a little bit. And so, yeah.
There you go.
I mean, I do like McGoohan.
We don't have facts to back
Don't
that
have any
up.
facts at all. It's all supposition. It would not stand up. Where is the proof?
Let's hear the clip.
Let's not. So, yeah, for me, could do better.
Fair enough. Where are we going next week?
Next week, we're going to... Well, I won't tell you where we're going.
Oh, hang on. Before, did I cut you off? Is there more trivia?
There is more. I'll get back to it.
Okay.
Next week, we're doing A Matter of Honour.
Okay. Is that some kind of faith-based honour killing within a family?
No.
Probably too controversial for Columbo.
Yes. A little bit of production info and a couple of bits of trivia before we head.
Okay.
2nd of November 1975 at a longer 95 minutes in length.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seemed longer.
Yeah. We see Dog is now, or we find out that Dog is now named.
He's named Dog.
Dog.
It's official
Yep.
on this one, yep.
And this is actually a question for the listeners.
Okay.
We have a credit in this episode for Paul Gleason. Paul Gleason was the head teacher in The Breakfast Club. He was also in Die Hard, and very well known 80s and 90s actor. He's sadly dead now. But
I didn't spot him.
Neither did I, and I don't think a lot of people did. He's credited in this, I think, as Parsons.
Is he in the bar?
Who knows? So if anyone can tell us, there are other incidents of sort of fake or ghost credits in Columbo.
Yeah, we saw one, The Simpsons.
Yes, back in Murder by the Book.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anyone can let us know, shed some light on this, was Paul Gleason in this episode and in which scene or scenes?
Fair enough.
So that's us.
All done?
All done.
Well, we'll need to wrap things up a little bit so folk can turn their phones back off.
It's now 7 a.m. in the morning.
We've been doing this all through the night. We started at 1 a.m.
We did. So I think all we have to say is thanks to everyone for listening and downloading, and we shall see you all next week.
And that murder that happened during the night was not us. We've been here. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.